Hey, what's happening, Herpers? I'm Herpin Hippie, but the snakes just call me Joe, and luckily enough, I already found one today, so I'm going to take you along with me herping, and we're going to see what we find basking out here in the morning sun. It is a bright one out today, so I've got high hopes. So if you want to see what cool desert wildlife is hanging out today with me, come along and find out. So let's jump right into the action and start herping, and I will give you the first of 5 tips to help you find more reptiles. One of the most important variables to consider is the temperature out when you're herping and what species you're looking for. A lot of the snakes in the Phoenix area that people are looking for are really going to be most active between about 78 and 90 degrees, but it depends on the species you're looking for. If you're looking for something like a coach whip, you can find them all the way up into the 110s. Likely if you find any snake at all and it's well over 100 degrees here, it was probably a coach whip. You tend to not hear about a lot of people going out and looking for them though, because they don't tend to really hold still long enough for you to get a photograph of them. But when I started out here this morning, it was right around 80 degrees. We're getting closer to 86 degrees, and I'll probably turn back when we get around 90 degrees because that's when the chances of me finding reptiles really declines, and the chances of me getting heat stroke or suffering from the heat out here really goes up. So I'll keep looking around until it hits about 90. But to sum up what I mean by temp and target is simply know what your target species is and what its preferred temperature to exist and be active in is, and then go out at that times to look for those species. And if you're not looking for any species in particular, then you'll want to just look for what the temperature range is that the majority of reptiles in your area prefer. That way, while you're out herping, you've got the best chances of coming across at least one of the reptiles that likes that temperature. Speaking of which, it looks like I've got my first find of the day, and check it out. It is this little western patch nose right here. Oh, and he's zooming off, and I am never going to see him again. Oh, there he is on the hill, and into the rock burrow he goes. Whew. Let's see that again. I'll slow it down this time so you can get a better look at him. You can see that long stripe running down his body, and if I was able to get a better look at his nose, you'd see why they're called patch nose snakes. They have an extra thick scale on the tip of their nose that is believed to help them push dirt around when they're looking for lizard eggs, which is a big part of their diet, but they also eat the lizards that lay the eggs and will go after grown lizards as well. Besides the eponymous nose of the patch nose snake, one of the most distinguishing characteristics of this species has to be the double black banded lines running down the entire snake's body. Now, I do have to come clean and say that none of the photos that you just saw were of the same snake that we just found together. It disappeared into that rock crevice, and that brings me to the next tip to help you find more reptiles. So today I decided to leave the snake be and source my photos of him to talk about the species from the web and the Creative Commons. And it's just one of those things, yeah, I could have lifted up the rocks earlier to get that snake, pull him out, get more footage of him, maybe even handle him a little bit. But the thing is, if I were to have disturbed him and done all that, I would have gotten a lot more footage of him today and probably never footage of that snake again. And I like seeing the same snakes over and over again. It lets you start understanding their routines better, growing a bigger appreciation for snakes in the wild. And so if I do find out where a snake is living, I don't want to tear apart that home and ruin it and make it a place that snake can't go back to. So that's why I try to stay on the trails, why I try not to lift up rocks as much as possible, because you might find something more in the day you're doing it, but you're going to end up hurting your long-term herping potential if you do that. There's a joke that you can tell what type of biologist somebody is by where they look, and the joke is herpers are always looking at the ground, but there's a lot of ground. So this next tip to help you find more reptiles is where specifically you should be focusing your attention while you're out looking for reptiles. Any sudden lines like this in the landscaping are a great place to keep your eyes on, or any rattlesnakes just sitting and wait for rodents to come running by. Especially if you see more narrow game trails going through the desert, those can be worthwhile to follow. And anywhere where that meeting between a big patch of brush of some kind and then a big opening kind of comes together, right where that line is a good place to keep your eyes. Look for things that look circular. That could be a snake coiled up. Things that look too straight could be them laid out straight. And of course that scale pattern is a good thing to kind of keep your eyes trained to look for. Stuff like this also always gets my herper senses tingling. I always have to get a little closer and see if there's anything hiding under rocks, especially if they're shielded by bushes or cactus, because not only is that rock crevice a good shelter for a snake, but the fact that the entrance is protected by a cactus gives that snake even more protection and reason to be there. Whenever you see this sort of thing, really good probability that there's a snake hiding somewhere in here. Even just now I saw that stick and got excited for half a second that there's something coiled up right there. But locations like this are great places to just slow down and really look around, see if anything's standing out, doesn't fit the pattern of the rocks. I'm not seeing a snake here just right this moment. It's probably just below one of these rocks outside of the vantage point of my view. But I also wouldn't be terribly surprised if I'm just missing one and somebody in the comments points out that, oh hey, you missed it, it was right there. I don't think so, but let me know in the comments if you find anything. And on that note, if you're enjoying the video, let me know down in the comments. I haven't done a herping video like this in forever, so let me know if you enjoyed it. Let me know if you think there are any other topics I should have touched on in this video and should make future videos on. And of course, if you have enjoyed this video or gotten anything useful out of it, please go ahead and hit the like button because it helps me out tremendously. Alright, and with that annoying but necessary bit of YouTuber business out of the way, I'll get on to the next tip to help you find more reptiles on your next herping adventure. Now this isn't a fun tip, but it can help stop you from getting hassled by park rangers or game and fish officers by knowing where to herp and being respectful of trail revegetation areas. This is something else just to be conscious of while you're out herping and considering where it's okay to maybe get off trail and more into the weeds. Stuff like this in the desert looks dead. It looks like it's just some weeds that you're gonna crush and it's no big deal. But this is actually very much alive, and when it gets rehydrated, that becomes very evident, and why you should be mindful of stepping on plants that even look like they're dead in the desert. And on top of that, this stuff does help hold these walls together. All these rocks, if I were to start pulling on stuff, you can kind of see that's loose. I don't need to pull that out too. But this type of resurrection bush and small brush helps keep these walls from coming collapsing down. So it's a good idea not to trample it, and a good idea not to go through pulling rocks out of the way, because even if you do find a reptile hiding behind one today, you just ruin that home and you're probably never gonna find them hiding there again. All right, so turning around and starting the walk home, we're getting awfully close to that 90-degree mark. So I'm thinking that everything this morning has probably had its chance to warm up, and I'm probably not gonna find much else. So I'm starting the walk back to the car. I've got about 2 miles to go, so I might find something on the way back. And I'll make sure to get the camera turned on for that if that is the case. And with that, I'll get on to my last herping tip of the day. So I'm pretty close to the parking lot now, and all of a sudden a little lizard came running in front of me like a bat out of hell. I barely got a look at it. Kind of looked like a zebra tail is waggling its tail back and forth doing that "please don't eat me, get distracted by my tail" maneuver. And while that lizard disappeared too fast for me to even get on film, it made me wonder, what was he running from? And I looked back over my shoulder and I saw this girl playing King of the Hill. She looks to be a greater earless lizard. They get that name from the fact that they don't have the external ear holes that you see on most other lizards. And I know that this one is a female because of the coloration. For comparison, here's what the males look like. You can see their colors are much more vibrant and they're a lot skinnier. And that's one of the cool things about lizards, is they're much more likely to be sexually dimorphic, which just means that you can visibly see a difference between the males and the females of the species. And the more I look at this lizard, the more I think there's a good chance that she might be currently gravid, which is cool because this species can lay anywhere between 3 and 9 eggs at one time. And even though it's a little late in the season for her to be laying new clutches of eggs, it's totally within the realm of possibility because they can lay over 3 clutches per year. Anyway, this greater earless lizard is a great example of why it's important to pay attention to all the animals around you, even if it's just a lizard scurrying off into a bush or a rodent running past you. Sometimes it pays to look around and see what's causing that fast action, especially if an animal runs directly in front of you. Sometimes it's worth looking around to see what was more scary to that animal than you. And in this case, my guess for what happened was that wasn't a zebra tail I saw running away. Greater earless lizards have the striping on the underside of their tail just like zebra tail lizards do, and I'm guessing the lizard I saw fleeing our queen on the hill was most likely a male greater earless lizard trying to court her, and she wasn't having it, so he had to go running. And with that, that's all I've got for this week. Thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it and might have learned something new that will help you on your next herping excursion. Let me know down in the comments if you did, and if any of these tips help you find something. I would be absolutely thrilled to hear that I helped some real world herpers out there. And if you did enjoy this and it was a help, let me know if you'd like to see more videos of herping tips, because I could go on and on and on about this. So once again, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week. I hope you stay on designated trails as much as possible, but most of all, I hope that you keep herping.